Today we are going to talk about how to receive feedback. We had decided with Suzanne to discuss receiving feedback first because, well, there are ways of giving feedback, giving corrections in a way that helps you grow and get better at what you do. But you know what? If the other person, so your teacher, your coach, do not have the knowledge on how to give proper feedback, then you have to know the skills on how to receive feedback the best way possible, regardless of the current delivery. Hello, how are
Hello,
you?
beautiful.
How are you doing?
I am so good. How are you?
Did you change your hair color or something?
No, it's just become a little sunnier out there, so my hair grows blonde really quickly.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's all natural. I don't have to do anything, and you have your hair down today. I am so happy.
No, I just let it. Yeah, I just let it down.
Yeah, let your hair. That's right, sister. Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I just wish it was a bit curlier, but well, anyway, it is the way it is.
Exactly. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Just waving at everyone. I love to wave at everyone all the way through. It's multitasking when you're doing an IG live. You have to follow the questions, interact with your host, wave at everyone. Love it. So today, the topic is how to receive feedback. And if I remember well, we decided to discuss how to receive feedback first because, well, can't necessarily change the way people are giving feedback. So you have to wait for that to happen.
Yeah,
which actually makes me think I just recently recorded a video on how to give feedback in a very useful, efficient way. So I will let you guys know as soon as it's out.
Oh,
that's
excellent.
That's going to be interesting.
Can I just say that, you can be so excellent at giving feedback if the other person is not ready to receive it.
It's not going to change anything.
Yeah, exactly. Just
you need both sides to be ready to give and receive feedback in a way that helps everybody move forward. That's the basis.
That's it. Mic drop. Okay, thanks for showing up, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a lovely day.
No, but I mean, it makes sense because it's giving and receiving feedback is a matter of communication. Communication requires at least two parties.
Yep.
So if one is shut, then it's shut.
Yeah, you can't go anywhere, right?
No.
I don't know how you wanted to start our TV appearance today. However, I was going to make it come true. I was thinking that if you don't mind, I'm going to share my journey,
I love when you share your journey.
My journey with feedback. And I actually had to think about that because I was that girl in ballet school who hated getting feedback because I always saw it as something where people point out the things that I'm not doing right. Okay, that was my perception of feedback. And that was very much also the mentality in school. We are here to tell you what you're not doing right. And when you only see feedback through that kind of a lens, that can actually turn into something that you don't want, something you are afraid of. I was always very, very happy when I didn't have to get any feedback, when I just slid through the cracks and nobody saw me. And I wasn't open to receiving it because it always hurt my soul because of my perception. And that went on for a very long time, quite honestly. And only over the past couple of years have I really learned that feedback actually means it's my opportunity to learn, to become better, to be more. It has nothing to do with my inabilities, but everything to do with my ability to learn. Yeah. I remember we were shamed for not applying, let's say, feedback right away.
Oh, well. I told you once it should be.
Yeah, it should be. You should be. Don't ask questions. Just do it. It's easy.
Yeah.
Easy for me. And like unpacking all of that, these emotions around feedback was quite the journey. And I'm still not like 100% comfortable with it, but I have to say I am now in a position to walk myself through it. I know
Mhm.
how, what kind of emotions will trigger certain behaviors, and then just really talk myself into a better place when I feel unworthy
Mhm.
when I receive feedback, right? The reason why we perhaps not feel able to receive the feedback for what it is because we think we're not worthy. At least that was for me. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you're sharing this because when I was preparing how to receive feedback, my first point that I thought was the most important to start building with was to actually control your emotions.
Mm,
Be aware of how you react to what feedback.
mm,
What is the trigger? What are the beliefs behind that makes you behave in a certain way? Sometimes you'll notice that you're okay receiving the feedback from one person and the exact same thing from someone else. No. So it's important to start having that awareness because the more you know those triggers, the more you can create your own strategy to listen. Um, and in that journey through controlling your emotions, understand the strategies that are open to you. And I'm going to be broader than the ballet world here. One strategy that we sometimes forget is, so of course you can take a deep breath if you want to, you can pause. But one strategy that sometimes we forget is you can say, I need some time. Can
mm.
I, can you give me whatever time to process that and get back to you? We don't have to reply straight away.
Yeah.
And I wanted to emphasize on that one because we sometimes forget about that, and it can be key to a lot of people that the time to process things. Because our initial reaction as human being is usually fight or flight straight away.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't have. There are other options. It's not this or that. There are plenty of other options, which allow you then to do what you were talking about, understand your emotions so that then you can control either the emotion or the behavior that this emotion is triggering in you.
Yeah. And this is such a vulnerable step though to take,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like being so hyper aware of,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is what exactly is happening, is almost taking yourself, stepping outside of yourself and watching what's happening,
Yes.
and then saying, okay, I'm choosing right now to not respond. I'm choosing to walk away and see how that feels in a couple of hours,
Yes.
right?
Definitely.
And
Yep.
that's like, okay, train your pinky finger to be half a centimeter to the right and not to the left. That's exactly the same work that comes into place when we're talking about these finite details that
Yes.
make such a huge difference
Mm-hmm.
when they compound, is that the right word? I'm
Yeah.
asking you. Yeah. When they compound in
She's
your life.
German. I'm French. We're
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, and we're speaking English. That's right.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oui, oui.
Oui, oui. So you say oui, oui. I say yeah, yeah. That's what I
Yeah,
want.
yeah. Okay. Anyhow.
Another point that I think is important with feedback, comments, whatever the word you're using, is um, any feedback is subjective. That's someone's perception of something, and you don't have to
Mm,
accept it as is. So, though I want to say don't dismiss all of it, but take the time to think about okay, what in this I agree with, what in what I've heard mm, has a truth. I don't necessarily agree with 100% of it, but I see where they're coming from,
mm.
or I agree with a little bit of it. Like, take what is useful from it, but you don't have to take the whole package. It's not,
Yeah.
again, it's not all or nothing. And that's,
I have a question.
yes, go ahead.
Okay, let's say we are in a situation where the feedback that is given to us is not coming from a place of love. It actually is meant to really hurt us. How would you suggest one reacts without taking on that same energy and just
Mm-hmm.
reacting And I know that we say, okay, take a breath and walk away,
Mm-hmm.
but let's acknowledge what really is going on in that moment in ourselves, and how can we talk ourselves through and through the situation, I would say, and
Mm-hmm.
find
Mm-hmm.
some sort of satisfaction.
Yep. Well, so my next point was assume that people have good intentions. So let's start first by assuming that people have good intention. But if you find out that maybe they don't, then I would say still assume they have good intention. And hear me out in this one, because it's a hard one to hear. I remember in every training, whenever we start with the assume people have good intention, someone comes up with, what about murderers? What about terrorists, etc., etc. Well, assume that they have good intention doesn't mean the action is a positive one. Doesn't mean that it is received as something that is positive by the other person. But the person is doing whatever they're doing because they think it's the best thing to do for them or for you or for the society. So to answer your question, I would actually say start first by actually telling yourself what is the good intention behind all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though it's easy to think it doesn't come from a place of love, there is something in there that is actually a place of love. But the delivery is something else. Go ahead.
Can I just add something
You
here?
don't have to raise your hand,
Like,
please.
me. And it's also understanding and being really quick. Okay, where is that person actually at in their mindset, in their beliefs? And it's hard to gauge, or even in their day and in their energy level. And that, for me personally, has given me permission to hear the things.
Yes.
Always, regardless from what place they came, I just made the decision, okay, they're tired, and yet that was the best that they could do with where they're at. Not expecting that other person to be exactly where you're at is really giving you the permission of freedom, and to really get what how can I say that? To get to the root of what actually has been said without the emotions.
Yes. And as you said, everybody can be tired and have a bad day, and it's not an excuse, it's just the reality, because if we expect everyone to be perfect all the time, then we're no better than what we're preaching.
Are you not?
And I give you an example. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was talking about one of his ballet teacher. And he was saying that the person was actually quite rude in the first month of training. But he changed afterwards. And when we were discussing it, we thought maybe that was a strategy because you guys were teenagers. And that was a strategy to say, hey, here, I'm the alpha. You guys are not. You're not going to get there. And also my friend was saying, I don't know, maybe I had the feeling also that he was trying to see how we react under pressure and to get the true us out very quickly without waiting and waiting. And although I don't agree with the way it was done, because I personally believe there are other ways to get there, once you understand that, you have a completely different approach to, well, how would you behave in this kind of environment?
Yeah.
If you know they're just testing you, then be it. And that's actually exactly what my friend did. It was like, okay,
go right ahead.
I don't know what you're trying to do. You know what? It's passing through me. Go ahead, throw all of this.
Yeah, I love it. Good.
And yeah, well, again, I'm not saying I agree, because I personally believe there are other ways and better ways, but we only know the things because we are learning more and more about psychology and human behavior, and we realize that actually this kind of coaching is not the most efficient.
Right.
But I could understand that 30 years ago, that's what we thought was the best way. How do you behave? That exactly what you said before. Understanding that it comes from, doesn't matter if it's a place of love, but it's a place where the person is trying to help you.
Yeah.
Deep down,
good intention, right?
There's a good intention behind that. So listen to the message, the core message. Forget about the delivery, forget about the packaging, forget about the words that are being used. What is the core essence of the message in there? And if you manage to focus just on that, you can deal with a lot of behaviors.
You know what just came into me too was the and take yourself out of the equation.
Yes.
Meaning stop making it about you. And that is a really hard one. There is no scurrying around it, around the fact, around how to do it. But that always helped me to, when that anxiety, when we're feeling hurt, when we want to react and say, oh, you're so bad, and why did you do this to me? Well, we're making it about ourselves. And as soon as we can take ourselves out of the equation, we are actually then able to hear that message in a different way. Yeah. I wish I would have known that when I was still, dancing.
Don't we all?
Lord.
Well, which is why we're doing those conversations. And another thing that I learned during my training on feedback was, and it kind of defeats the purpose of what I just said, is to resist the temptation of understanding the motive of the other person. And it's funny because I just did that with my friend, but that was in hindsight, to try to understand why was he doing it this way. But on the moment, because you have to take the feedback very quickly, especially if you're a dancer and we're talking about feedback within work environment, you have to move on very quickly. So if you resist the temptation of understanding the motives, you can just focus on the message. And you don't get distracted by, they're trying to be bad to me, they're trying to get at me, etc.
Me.
Yes, well, which is why I was thinking about that, because you were talking about don't make it about yourself. And that's a way sometimes we take it about ourselves. We think that the world is against us. No, think that actually they're trying to help you in their own way.
In their own way, exactly.
In their own way.
And seeing all of these things and being able to really look through feedback through that kind of a lens, it takes a lot of work. And I'm saying that with love, because you have to let go of a lot of fear, a lot of your own shame, a lot of your triggers, a lot of your old stories around feedback and around who you are versus who you could be.
And so the last point I wanted to make on that one was, same as the first point I made, we sometimes forget about that. It's a two-way communication. And I know that in ballet coaching, sometimes it's one way, but the best coach actually don't do that. The best coach have established like a really good relationship. If you look at the coaching that Florence Claire did with Roxanne, that I'm going to publish very soon on Giselle, there is this relationship that is being built through and through, and it gets, like Roxanne is telling her so much about what she's doing, what she's feeling. And when you receive feedback, you have permission to ask the other person if they want to hear your own point of view. It can sometimes also help actually remove the tension. And totally. We don't necessarily think about it because we feel that we're being asked not to say anything. But if you're in a position where the other person is upset because they feel that you're not giving your best, by you actually communicating, they may actually realize that, no, actually, I was wrong to perceive you as being lazy or not committed. The problem was somewhere else. And I remember not that long ago, one of my friends called me, and that's exactly what he did during a coaching session. The teacher was not really happy about some of the things. Then he said, excuse me, can I just try to explain to you what I'm trying to do? And the coach completely relaxed and said, yes, you're sure. Yeah, of course. It's kind of like went out of the bubble and went like, yeah, sure, tell me. And then the dancer explained what they were trying to do, and they found together why it wasn't working. Whereas before it was just one way, and it was going nowhere.
But isn't that though what we're running into in the industry, that it is a one-way communication? you being told what to do without
Yeah.
questioning it, without having the right to be you and to
Mhm.
say and to experience. You know, in coaching, the the real beauty is that the coach actually just asks questions and you come to the conclusions yourself, right?
Yeah.
That is where really high level coaching is coming in. Um, and I wonder sometimes how that would actually work in a studio and what kind of a atmosphere that would actually, provide when, hey, I noticed this wasn't working. Do you know why it wasn't working?
That
Versus
would
telling
be
them, you didn't do
beautiful.
this right,
Yeah. It
you know.
actually works very well. I mean, you know that I've experimented it with the teacher who worked with me, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Progress is so much faster, autonomy. The dancer start to understand themselves what they should do. And you know what? It makes the life of the teacher so much easier.
Well, then
No,
too,
but
but it's not about the teacher, right? It's
no,
about
no,
the
but it's just so funny because at first we feel like by asking all those questions, it's gonna be harder to go through the class. It's gonna take more time, but actually no, because the dancers in front of you are becoming autonomous, which means they correct themselves more and more, which means that you can focus on other things. I focus less and less on technique, on pure technique. Sometimes I'm just an external eye that confirm what they already know.
yeah.
And then we can build the artistry. We can build the details. We can build finesse, which
Yeah.
is interesting. It's more interesting than, hey, your hips are not square.
But that's not helpful. And this is how the whole feedback loop though
Yeah.
was implemented over the last, I don't know, 4 decades. And this is how we coach dancers, where, hey, why don't we look outside of what other coaches do that are maybe, coaching entrepreneurs for that matter? And how do they coach? Like, what is really effective? Where do they see the best results? And it also takes off, I feel like the weight of a teacher's shoulder to have to know everything, to be responsible for what that other person is actually doing. If I remember in a ballet school, the teachers were reprimanded and graded upon the class's ability to show up in the every 6 months kind of
Mm-hmm.
exams. Okay.
Yes.
And how they got there didn't matter. What mattered is that we all looked
If
the
they get
same.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, oh, that's a heavy load, right? And
It
they got
is.
there by teaching us with fear.
Mm-hmm. But if you allow me, I would challenge the idea that the ballet world believe that there is only one way to give feedback, and that's this one
Mm,
way believing brief here. If we look at the best teachers, the best coach, and when I say that, I mean the people who have trained a lot of the best dancers. I don't want to give names because I'll forget someone. Uh, but we all know a couple of really great ballet masters that are known because through their training came out 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10 principal dancers. That's
okay.
okay. They don't train like that.
They don't
So
train like that. No.
no, and I agree with you. It's important to go and look at what other industry do because this is how everyone grow. It's by looking at what everybody else does. But if the ballet world could spend some time to just look at what they themselves do,
Mm.
but
Oh,
look
yeah.
at look at what the best people do. Not look at. Sometimes I'm like, why are you looking at those people? How many great dancers have they trained? Have they coached? That says a lot about their own training. If you have only one great dancer, it might be just luck. They may have been
Mm.
great with any teacher. But there's a lot we
So
can learn from within. A lot.
for sure, when we're asking the right questions, right?
Yes.
And actually looking at, because I also know that there are great dancers out there that have been produced by teachers. However, the way they've gotten there, I don't agree with at all. Like if I take the State Ballet School as an example, that
Mm-hmm.
school produced a lot of great dancers, particularly in East Germany.
Mm-hmm.
However, how they gotten there and how
Questionable. Yeah. You should
behaved
always ask
after,
questions anyway.
you
Yeah.
know, wasn't really mm, setting them up for a fulfilled life. Let's just say it that way, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you're right. I should rephrase what I said. I didn't mean that if you're a teacher who had trained a lot of great dancers, then you are a great
right.
teacher. I just meant this is a starting point to look for in terms of investigation. But yes, you're right. I wasn't meant to say there is a causation link here.
No, no.
Thank you for
There's
clarifying
always
that.
there's always room on either side, right? There's
Yeah.
no black or white. There's
And
always
you
gray.
have, and if I can clarify, there are also really great teachers who have never trained excellent dancers because they
Yes.
never came their way.
Yes, yes, yes.
So thank you for clarifying. I don't want my message to be twisted.
And they may also have not been dancing on stages. And I'm so sorry. I'm just looking at my calendar. I was like,
No problem.
okay. Um, okay. Do you want to wrap this up? Because I have 1 minute and then I have another call.
And I
I'm
think we've
sorry.
covered the subject anyway. I
Yeah.
mean, if people want us to summarize, receiving feedback is actually quite easy when you know the recipe. And the recipe is the recipe is first to control your emotion. Be aware of what makes you fight or flight. Remember that there are many strategies on how you manage your emotions, and you have to build what works for you. You can take a deep breath, you can smile, you can tell yourself a little sentence, you can ask for time to think about it. Then the second thing we said is that someone's feedback is someone's view of the world. You don't have to take all of it. You actually have to take some time to think about what is it in that message that you agree with, you don't agree with, what part, in which context, because maybe you agree here, but you don't agree that it's a general statement.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that work, you have to assume that the person in front of you has good intention. The delivery is something else, but the intention is to help you, to be helpful. They think it's the right thing to say at the moment. And yeah.
Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Live from Paris. Thank
Oh,
you.
no, I forgot. And remember that you can ask the other person if they are willing to hear what you have to say about that.
Oh, yeah.
Don't just listen and take it with a big smile.
And then go complain about it in the dressing room. Just
when you have to say,
yeah.
oh, can I think about it and get back to you tomorrow? Then you go
Yes.
talk in the dressing room and then you come back with clear mind.
All right. Well, thank you so
everyone
much, my
for
darling.
following.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Tomorrow we are going to talk about why selling yourself is important, why it is necessary, why it has nothing to do with any kind of sleazy or dirty ways. We're going to talk about what kind of beliefs we actually have attached to the phrase, and how you may be able to, if you discover that these beliefs are not favorable, then we're going to give you a few tips on how to break through them. Okay.
So on the Point Therese account tomorrow.
You got it. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good to see you. Bye.